as Marcus.
Hey, folks.
Hey, folks, indeed. For those of you who don't know, Marcus is the owner of KCS, which is it's a
Yeah.
pretty decent ACFL team, from what I'm told.
Thank you. Thank you. We've been trying hard a couple seasons.
Yeah, I think that's shown through in the work. But at the moment, we are looking at, honestly, not the most competitive ACFL match in the world, but props to Ashtai and Boof for showing up for their teams, right?
I 100% agree. I think that even if you're the only person that can go in, that's what you have to do. I actually considered if I couldn't get anyone else, I'd play in that owner's card like so many of us have.
Yeah. Most notably, even Phil. I think he was the first to do it, if I recall, because it was season 2. His people weren't showing up, and then he just decided to opt in, right, to try to make it a little bit more competitive.
Absolutely, and that's what the commitment to the game is about. And I think that this puts on a show and it brings a lot of people in. I mean, what's our count at now? We're at 105 characters, so
It's pretty
we're
phenomenal.
starting to
Yeah.
range it. Yeah, I think you've mentioned it in the past. Meredith picked up the flag. Go Mary.
Yeah, go Mary. Now,
Not
do
a
you
woman.
know if he's completely sober tonight?
He is, which we are playing I wouldn't say handicapped game, but not our tried and true. We're giving
True.
Trace a run at it. So something that a lot of teams always talk about is getting people out there. The guys are blessed and spelled, so they're doing their best to try and make sure everything goes.
Yeah, and there is one thing. Okay, so there's been a lot of discussion about if you're fielding against a team that isn't full up, do you make it competitive and put 2 people out there to match their 2, or do you just go and blitzkrieg the thing? And I've always felt that it's more respectful to the enemy to just not play around, because Elmaniter had been interviewed last season, and she commented that it felt like they were playing with us because I believe Galaglass had put 2 in. Then QS, Elmaniter, and Atherin actually ended up getting an upper hand, and then GG went, okay, wait a minute, let's put the rest of our guys out here. So I like just go ahead and finish the match as quickly as possible because it's more respectful to your opponents, I believe.
I entirely agree, and that's exactly what we were going with tonight. It just doesn't make sense to take advantage of them or put yourself in a position. Not to mention that it's a point about being greedy as well. I really respect my players. I respect their time, and for us, we want to try and make sure that the game gets over quickly and easily, but at the same time that we score a 3-0. I think I've always talked about points being the great decider, and it does. It breaks ties. It decides who gets that second place or that first place round seeding, which actually will then decide whether or not people can make matches, because real lives do happen around the game.
Yeah, I think that's true. I'm actually surprised by how well everybody showed up on such short notice. The point decider that's interesting to me because it's something that you were ahead on that nobody else really was. Especially season 5. Coming into it as captain of Hadra that season, I didn't really think about points that much. You were in interviews and you said over and over again, if I don't care if you lose, and I was like, what? And then you specified with the caveat, okay, 3-2, and then you ended up going into playoffs off that record. So I do agree, points certainly matter a lot, and Magma has the same stipulations basically as ACFL season.
And I really do enjoy Magma just for a lot of different reasons, but I think one of the big things is the 4-team playoff, the no bye. I would love to see that transfer into the actual season itself. Obviously, that may come for more teams, maybe. And I think that that's what Magma's designed to do, is to drive the interests. And I really hurt for QS because I really do think that they have some great players that should be here tonight and that should be putting in for it. And I do think that there are people that are willing to play that, could get something better out of it. There are even people that almost couldn't play that were dying to.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk about that a little bit. We are up 2-0 here. The match is about to finish fairly soon.
They didn't stack. Disappointing.
I think they're safe. QS is showing up with a roster of 2, which is what they had season 5. And How important do you think it is, personally, for an owner to be here on the Knots? Because I get the impression that, at the very least, to a pretty large degree, this is an owner-related issue, right? Because if your owner is not present, not only for funds, but for morale, I think that is seen reflected in the team very often.
Because I've played actually in a season before and been a player on a team that did have an owner that wasn't around very often, and that was a very challenging point of view. And that was one of my mainstays when I came on as an owner, is that I was going to be 100% committed to it. And I think that as an owner, you have to look at yourself as a member of the team, and that comes down to the same thing as, your 6 and your 7 and your 8 guy on your team or gal that's playing, but not get to play every night. They're just as important. Everybody is an integral part of making this happen, and that's what's great about DSL in general, is that 8 people can make something very unique and very strong and very forceful. And we see that in Sea Wars. We see that in just plain old role play. So there's a lot of glory that can come out of adding yourself to the equation.
I think that's true. I think something that comes to mind here is that Ganth, that KCS does take the match. Something that comes to mind is Ganth only had, Amrock and a couple of other players, and they ended up winning Algorn World Games that season.
Right.
That's extraordinary. It's extraordinary that just a handful of people or less can make such a huge statement on DSL today. Of course, the owner is important. The other thing, before I let you go, that I want to talk about, a very prominent player, I will mention his name, he's Duxton, if anybody's familiar with him. He is really curious to know if we're going to vote yes on expanding the teams, because he says that he likes the divisions for Magma. I told him I think yes. I mean, if the draft is halfway decent, I think yes, and I know that you were also a proponent of that.
I'm a very strong proponent of it. I think that the more involved that we can get people, the better. In addition to, I think that the teams could allow themselves more specialization rather than the need for being super versatile. I think specialization could be strong, because we'd be looking at divisions at that point. We wouldn't be playing all the teams throughout the season, or maybe we play a limited amount of the other teams. So it changes the whole dynamic of the game in itself, and I think makes it more competitive in the end.
I agree entirely. We will see what the owner's vote holds, but that's 2. We need one more, and I guarantee you that Tony, a.k.a. the commissioner, will vote yes in the event of a tie. So we'll see how the draft is looking pretty soon into it. Dan, thanks for being on with me. I think we've done our best to make a so not pretty interesting.
Sure.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for coming on.
Take care.
All right. Have a great night.